Hello, my friends. Welcome to Lindy's Magpie Reads. If you're new here, I'm Lindy, and I'm here to talk about books. So I have, I think, 7 books to tell you about today from 7 different countries, if I'm not mistaken. And I am going to get right into them, starting with this collection of cartoons from Canada, Hark, a Vagrant. It's by Kate Beaton, who is from Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. You may be familiar with her as the author of the memoir Ducks 2 Years in the Oil Sands. This came out much earlier than that. Kate Beaton has a history and anthropology degree, and the book Ducks 2 Years in the Oil Sands is about how she went to Fort McMurray to work in the oil sands to pay off that degree. However, she did put it to good use, writing cartoons based on history and literary characters. And with things happening this week, I'm talking about the US elections, I needed a laugh, and so this was a reread for me. And I also talked about it on a recent conversation that I had with Jolene of Bookworm Adventure Girl. So we were talking about the best can-lit of the 21st century, a project that we did with your help. A whole bunch of booktubers and authors and readers who submitted their favorite Canadian titles. This was somebody's favorite book, and I was happy to revisit it. I'm going to share just one cartoon strip with you. Jane Eyre, a strip called The Solution. So I locked my wife in the attic and slept my way through Europe, spending her fortune. It was hard. It was I who suffered. Jane, do you think I had a choice? Do you? Then I found this self-help book, Bigamy, the answer to all your problems. And often, Beaton adds a footnote at the bottom. What the heck is happening out on those moors? It's like when you're out in your boat for too long and you start to lose it and you think you see a beautiful mermaid, but it's really a manatee. Then you've made out with it and you don't know why. We only want Jane to be happy, though, because she had a pretty rough go in life and she's a smart cookie. We'll let her have Mr. Rochester because she loves him, even though he might be a manatee. Yeah, lots of great stuff in here. Next up, I have a cartoonist from Switzerland, Anna Sommer, and the English translation of The Unknown is by Helge Dascher. It has clean line drawings with no borders around each panel. The story is kind of fable-like. You really have to stretch your belief because what happens is a young woman gives birth in the change room of a clothing shop, and the woman who runs the clothing shop decides to keep the baby in secret. And so there's that storyline. She keeps the baby a secret from her husband, keeps it in a box in the back room at the store. And then there's the separate storyline of the young woman who's attending a boarding school. She shares her room with another woman, and she's having an affair with one of her professors. And of course, these storylines converge, and it's pretty wild. But the fact that both of these main characters are so flawed and self-delusional, it kind of made me care about them more. I don't know. Anyway, I did enjoy this. And next is another graphic novel. This one I read a digital edition in Hoopla. It's called Mothballs, and it's by Sole Otero, translated from Spanish by Andrea Rosenberg. So this is set in Buenos Aires, right around the year 2000. And it's about the relationship between a granddaughter and her grandmother. And it opens with the grandmother's funeral, and nobody's there except the immediate family. And Ro, the granddaughter, is trying to figure out, like, how did her grandmother get to be so isolated and really so cranky and unpleasant to be around that she pushed everyone away. And Ro ends up living in her grandmother's house, and she's kind of haunted by the past and sort of the ghost of her grandmother. In fact, her grandmother's ghost appears on a photo that Ro takes in the house, and strangely, a similar thing happened in the book Held by Anne Michaels that I read recently. There's a separate timeline with the earlier narrative where we see how the grandmother's life was shaped, and it's really easy to tell what part of the narrative we're in because there's a pink background for the grandmother's story. Her grandmother had an older brother, Antonio, who liked to wear women's clothing, and so there's also a queer element to this story. And then occasionally the whole scene shifts to dreams that Ro is having. And once again, it's really easy to tell when that is happening. It's very much about Ro trying to assert her independence with her own parents. She recognizes that she has a lot of similarities to her grandmother, but she doesn't want to be like her. So she's trying to make her own choices in life. This is really, really well done, and the art is very striking. It's unusual. This one I highly recommend. Another graphic novel for you, No Rules Tonight. This is by the South Korean writer Kim Hyun Sook, together with her husband, the American cartoonist Ryan Estrada. Now, the pair of them put together another earlier graphic novel, The Banned Books Club. And both of these books are based on the true life experiences of Hyun Sook. You don't need to have read The Banned Book Club. You can start right in on this one. They're only sort of lightly connected. And Hyun Sook says that the events in here are actually condensed from 8 years of experiences. So in this book, it's basically one hiking trip on Christmas Eve that a group of 12 people who are members of a folk dance group go hiking in the mountains during their college time off, the holidays. And there is an emotional journey for each one of them, but it's also happening within the political oppression of South Korea in 1984. Just to give you an idea of the beautiful full color art inside. Very happy and cartoony, even though the subject is serious. Now, this is suitable for grade 7 and up, so age 12 and up. And another digital graphic novel. This one is The Library Mule of Cordoba, and it is by Wilfrid Lupino and Léonard Chemineau, two French creators. It is translated into English by Lynn Escow. So this one is also related to book banning, book burning, which is actually quite central to the plot. It's historical fiction set in 10th century Spain, in Cordoba, where when there's a change of rulers, this huge library of 400,000 volumes is going to all be destroyed. And a couple of slaves who have been working in the library as copiers and archivists try to save some of the books. And they've got the worst mule ever. Again, lots of humor, and yet a serious topic which is still relevant today. This graphic novel is suitable for ages 12 and up. Next, I've got a picture book suitable for preschool. It's called Finding the Way to Faraway Valley, and it is by Cecelia Heikkila, who is a Swedish picture book illustrator and author, and it was translated to English by Polly Lawson. So this is a story of a grandpa bear and his grandson, and he's told him so many stories about this fantastic place, and they decide to go there. And when they get there, things have changed a lot. However, they venture in. This part really makes me laugh. Like, beware of bears. And there's some doubt as to whether they're going to find the idyllic place. But they are helped by some animals. And there they are. And it's got a great message at the end, because Grandpa decides to stay there, and the young bear goes home to educate other young people about preserving special places. Finding the Way to Faraway Valley is quite touching, a great way to open discussion too with little ones. And the final book that I've got to tell you about, this amazing long narrative poem, it's a fat book, Orlam by PJ Harvey. Yes, PJ Harvey, the musician. And after publishing this, I think it came out in 2022? Yeah, 2022. She created a music album with some of the lyrics are based on this long poem. I am going to link one of those videos down below so you can get an idea of the Dorset dialect. These poems, they use so much of the Dorset vocabulary and pronunciation in here that the book is structured with English on the facing page and Dorset on this other side. So there's always, it's like a bilingual book. And there's a long glossary at the back too, which is quite fun to read. I have my favorite words that were new to me. A buttercup is a gilt cup. A snowdrop is a milk flower. Daffodils are yaller heads. Sheep are bedraggled angels. Leaves are tree tears. And to be left alone is lone left. A tongue is a red rag. The word for web is wevet, and so spiders are wevet queens. Rooks are black bards. So many great words. Croodle, to rock, to coo, to make little crowings. Yeah. There were actually a lot of words in there that I was familiar with, even though we don't use them very often, like bandy to mean crooked or bent, and break to mean thicket, flummox to frighten or bewilder, and to scratch meaning to write. Oh yeah, a whole bunch of words. Some of them are particularly related to farming because this book is set in the 1970s on a farm in Dorset, a very small invented place called Underwhelm. And it does feel quite timeless. It goes through a year, starting in January, and there are a lot of nature scenes, what things are growing, what's blooming, what's happening in the trees and with the animals, and the weather. But also, it is a coming-of-age story of 9-year-old Ira Abel. She lives on a farm, and at 9 years old is when she loses her childhood innocence. Yeah, there is a fair bit of violence in here, not just sexual violence, but kind of the gore of farming and unhappy people. And yet there's a lot of folkloric elements as well. Fairies, ghosts. There is the ghost of a soldier in the woods that Ira Abel goes to talk to a lot. And his name is Wyvern Elvis. And he's almost like a Christ figure. He's continually bleeding. There are bits in here that are from the Bible, that are from Shakespeare, that are reworkings of the Lord's Prayer, and a song from The Sound of Music, and a Moody Blues song, Nights in White Satin, Elvis Presley songs, Love Me Tender. It's just so intricately interwoven, and the more I read it, the more it really got to me. I'm absolutely amazed by the power of this book that is told from the viewpoint of a dead lamb, Orlam. I have to read you just a little bit. Lonesome tonight, Gore Woods. Hark the greening of the earth, curled ferns yet to uncurl. Hark the zingin' of the birds, girl yearns yet to ungirl. Beech and aller, woke and birch, biddle, bullhead, squirrel's dray, willow, aspen, elder, larch, soldier king on Maundy day. In her satchel, Pepsi fizz, peanut and banana crusts, for this man her shepherd is, parts her bready lips of love. Are you Elvis? Are you God? Jesus sent to win my trust? Love me tender are his words. As I have loved you, so you must. Twice she draws her lips to kiss, mouthing for his mouth in vain. Thrice her lonesome kisses miss. My love, will you come back again? There's another one, A Child's Question, end of the summer holidays. Starling swarms will soon be lorn. Rooks tell stories cross the corn. Cuckoo soon will as leave make. Swifts abandon autumn's ache. What says dunnock, drush, or dove? Love me tender, tender love. Hear the grinding wheelbird grieve. Grief unknits my ravelled sleeve. Death of summer, death of play, waxing night and dwindling day. Help me drunnock, drush, and dove. Love me tender, tender love. There's a lot of times where instead of S's in the English word, Z's are used, and it makes a very buzzy sort of sound to my ear. I mean, I have no idea if I'm saying this in a Dorset accent, but the way it sounds in my ear is just quite delightful. I love all of this language in here. It just sets my brain on fire. There's one place where she talks about her father's dog who has heterochromia. When a dog has one blue eye and one brown or amber eye, and says this is also known as ghost eyes. And it has been said that such dogs can see both heaven and earth, but are not to be trusted. Now, in the book, this is called wall-eyed. And I had never heard wall-eyed used that way. So I asked my sweetie, Lori, I said, if I say wall-eyed, what do you think that means? And she said, well, you know, big bulgy eyes like a fish. And while I've heard wall-eyed used that way, when I was growing up, wall-eyed was a word that we used to say that somebody's eyes didn't focus both at the same time. And I also learned not to use that. That was not a nice thing to say, that somebody was wall-eyed. But anyway, this particular definition or usage of it for heterochromia particularly caught my interest because my dog Joni has heterochromia. One brown eye, one blue eye. And sometimes when we're out walking, people react very strongly that that's really scary to them. Devil dog and what's she been called? Ghost dog, some people say. So these kinds of superstitions and folklore show up in this book. And I highly recommend it if you are up for a bit of a challenge, let's say. So that is all I've got for you today. Thank you so very much for watching. And I always appreciate hearing from you. So please do say hello in the comments down below. Let me know if you're interested in reading any of these. Let me know what's good. What are you reading? And stick around if you want to see some fish. Because last week, my friend Deanna took me to a couple of streams up island on Vancouver Island where we watched salmon coming up the streams to spawn. And so I'll put a little bit of footage at the end to share that with you. Thanks again. I'll see you soon. And in the meantime, happy reading, everybody. Bye for now.